I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but now's as good a time as any to say that very often I get the tune of Superstition by Stevie Wonder stuck in my head when I'm thinking about this show, so it's vaguely scientific. There, now you can't unhear it either.
Huh.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me, cocked your head to the side, and said, "I'm Derek." Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay. Jim, the scientist. Hi, Jim.
Here's one on the house.
And well, now don't you tell me to smile. You stick around. I'll make our guest this week, Dak. Hi, Dak.
What's going on? What an intro. That's one of your best for sure.
It's actually been 2 weeks since we've been here.
It has been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Thanks a lot, bare naked ladies.
They did it wrong. They were wrong.
It's their fault.
So this is the bi-weekly, as you mentioned it, show where we answer the most ridiculous audience-submitted questions in a manner that we like to call vaguely scientific. But before we do that, it is time once again for Jim's fun science fact of the day. Jim?
Okay. The first full-scale working steam locomotive was built by a man named Richard Trevithick. He tested the steam engine in the south of Wales back in 1804, which I think is really cool. I did not realize that steam locomotives were that old.
Wow. 1804. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, when I think of trains, I think of the 1860s, but obviously they would have had to have predated that by quite a bit to get to that point, I suppose.
For some reason, I thought there was going to be a part 2 to that fact, and that's how we discovered that trains are.
That's how we discovered trains.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, I think that is true, right?
Yeah,
that's how the West was won.
So that's the first one. Would you say 1804?
1804,
1804 in Wales.
Wow, Wales. Okay, cool. That's fun, Jim.
Yeah.
And it's a science fact.
Yeah,
I love that.
Of today.
That's the segment.
That's the segment. We did it. Well, let's move on to another segment here, which will be our first question for the week. And this question is, please explain what fuels a Charmander's tail fire, and please explain where the water comes from for Squirtle's water gun.
Oh.
These, for those of you not in the know, these are our Pokemans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squirtle famously let Bidoof die, burned to death.
I feel like this has to have some sort of canonical answer, or at least a really accepted fan fiction answer.
So there's a thing that's been going around, and I haven't looked into is this the true official answer to the question that Nintendo has put out? I feel like I've heard that it is the true official answer, but I refuse to accept it.
Okay.
Because I have heard that basically Pokemon do not have to use the bathroom because their moves are
what?
The moves are how they expel their waste. Not in a bathroomy way, but it's they use up all of their energy doing these moves, so they don't have to use the bathroom. It's
There's no way Nintendo said that.
They're just
I'm going to Google this since I brought it up.
But how are their bodies turning it into pure H2O? What kind of weird alchemy can Pokemon apparently do?
Well, to be fair, have you seen the weird alchemy that human bodies can do?
I mean,
I have,
true.
in fact. I have.
Every day after Taco Bell,
The two things that I found, and I kind of wasn't satisfied with either of these answers, so I kind of tried to come up with my own things. But one for Charmander, I read that it is allegedly Charmander's entire inside of Charmander is all fire, and that's just one of the places it comes out is his tail.
It's leaking.
It's leaking out, I guess.
Thankfully, I have not found a source to verify the thing I said, but I know it's been making the rounds on the internet, so maybe someone just falsely attributed it to Nintendo, and it's blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, go ahead.
Fair.
Please
I hadn't
continue.
heard that before. The only other thing was I read that Squirtle, I think this actually is in one of the Pokemon games, but least knowledgeable person about Nintendo here, so. But I read somewhere that it is said that Squirtle has glands that secrete water in his shell.
I don't like that sentence.
So
that sentence is not much better than the one I had. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
fair.
Well, all of this is to say that it's part of the Pokemon's anatomy that creates these elements. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
that's as far as I got. I think.
I think I'm trying to think of what is like the biggest move, the most amount of water that Squirtle has ever produced, because I just have a hard time believing that. I mean, anybody can store a liquid and expel it, right? But
true, it's just spitting. Right?
But Squirtle. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that dude can do, and that water is not coming just from like his internals. You know?
He is putting out a quantity of water that far exceeds the volume of his entire body.
So, I mean, I guess if it is still coming from inside of his body and we're not using like a portal or some sort of weird interdimensional travel to pull this water from somewhere else, that would sort of imply that it's compressed in the side of Squirtle.
I was thinking that, yeah.
But water doesn't really compress all that well, does it? I don't think so.
No,
right?
it surely does not.
Like it's just what, H2O. Yeah, you can't really get it much smaller than that.
No, I had thought that, like, even looking at like Blastoise, how he's got the water guns, I had thought maybe if there was like a water tank on Blastoise's back and it was like put through really high pressure, it could maybe shoot out like a water jet and be more like steam. But that is not what Squirtle does. Squirtle shoots a blast of water.
Now, consider this. So in the Pokemon world, there is technology that allows things to be bigger on the inside. You know, the Pokeballs. Perhaps Pokemon are just bigger on the inside.
Okay. How much do Pokeballs weigh with a big giant Pokemon? Is it always the same weight?
I have to imagine so. I mean, 10-year-old kids are carrying around Snorlaxes and stuff.
That's true, and those kids aren't really jacked. So
no,
so
true.
I guess in the Pokemon world, teleportation does also exist, right? Because you can send things back to like your PC if you catch a Pokemon that you can't use, right?
Yeah.
Why have I been riding around on a bicycle this whole time?
Right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, hold on.
Instantaneous matter transportation. So this is a dumb joke that I'm forcing right now, but so basically Squirtle can download water from the PC through torrent, right? That's my joke. That's it.
That's good.
That's a good joke.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Joke of the day. Right
so
there.
I guess like if it's not stored like in a compact way, and it's not, Pokeballized or bag of holding or what's the TARDIS thing? Yeah, that thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
bigger.
If it's not doing anything like that, what would be another way that it could it suck maybe the humidity out of the air quite rapidly and turn that into water? Like a spirit bomb of water sort of thing,
Yeah.
It'd have to be like far reaching, right?
Yeah, they should do studies if like hydro pump is less effective in the desert.
That's a really a good point. Yeah, and I guess what happens when a Squirtle is parched? Like what if he's out of water? Does that just mean the move is you can't do it anymore?
That's when you run out of power points, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe the key here is power points, right?
Oh, true.
Yeah, just like Bill Gates always said. And maybe this is actually the solution to both Squirtle, Charmander, and all of these, crazy generative Pokemon who can just create stuff. Maybe the pee-pee is so universal that it's basically raw energy, and maybe Pokemon have the ability to sort of alchemize it into,
So what you're saying is that they don't have like a bunch of water inside of them or a bunch of fire. They have this raw energy that then when they do the move, they convert it. I
think that's fair, but I think it could even be more simplified than that, because like, until we kind of came up with this, I was working under the assumption that we're trying to explain how Charmander has unlimited fire or how Squirtle has unlimited water, but they don't.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot easier to explain that somehow Squirtle is just able to contain a lot of water, but still can run out of it.
We're really talking a lot about Squirtle here, and I feel like that's because it's a lot easier for Charmander. Like the fuel is the air and a spark and one other thing. That's like pretty simple, right? Like there are,
and you can compress a lot of things that are flammable.
Yeah.
So
right,
yeah. And Charmander could eat sulfur-rich foods or gas-producing foods.
He's just a bag of hydrogen.
Have been. Yeah, I mean, but.
I'd say the average mammal could produce an amount of flame given if they had like a spark, like
right.
Yeah. I mean, you could even have like the bombardier beetle. That thing, like that thing, doesn't that shoot out fire or
it's out boiling water.
That's right. Yeah. That's close enough.
But it generates heat.
Yeah,
and
that's basically a Pokemon.
Yeah, that is actually kind of a real Pokemon, huh?
How is there not a bombardier Pokemon? Like a bombardier beetle Pokemon?
Are you sure there isn't? I
At this point, no, I'm not, because there's over 1,000 of them, so.
But yeah, like, if you can generate enough heat and you have some sort of flammable material contained inside, like, even humans can belch out, like, carbon dioxide. That's not flammable. I don't know.
Methane.
Cows produce methane, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Right there. So as long as you have something that can start the fire, like that's a lot of animals can already do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the alternative method for like Charmander would be sort of the like Roy Mustang kind of thing, where what's he do? He like snaps his fingers, but doesn't he concentrate like he can manipulate the oxygen in the air or something to make it more concentrated?
Yeah, it was the snapping of the fingers is the spark, but he changes the atoms to be flammable and he mixes it with the oxygen, which is neat.
Interesting. So are there other Pokemon who can kind of do that? Can they sort of mess with either something on like the atomic level or maybe in a more macro sense, just like combining a bunch of oxygen together or something? Like I'm trying to think of the psychic Pokemon who sort of have that
I was actually thinking ghost Pokemon are often gaseous in some way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and then coughing is a bag of gas.
True.
Yeah. I wonder if he's flammable.
I think so. I feel like it's like if you set a coughing on fire, it explodes or something. Like that's a thing in the Pokedex. But the Pokedex is just full of lies, so who knows?
Isn't there one that's a blimp? Isn't that a Pokemon?
There's Driftblim, which is a balloon.
It's a balloon. Is it full of helium or hydrogen? Is it?
I don't know. It kidnaps children, though.
Oh,
that's fair. I'm gonna nickname one the Hindenburg if I play Pokemon again.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so back to Squirtle. What do you think is the most likely scenario out of the like compression, the sort of bag of holding, the external humidity, warping water in from another dimension? What do you think?
I want to say that I liked the idea that you sort of came up with the PowerPoints being like an energy that is transformable into other things. I think that's kind of compelling. But I also like the other dimension thing because it makes me think of Cyclops and how he has like a portal to the Force dimension. And it's like that's
portal to the dimension of punching.
The dimension of punching, yes.
Yeah. I like that just because even in the context of Pokemon, there is precedent for it because they can be converted into data.
Oh, yeah. Wow. this is okay. We need to just do a full a full month of poke science because there's a lot to really. You're right. They can become data. Are they even carbon life forms? Does Pokemon even remotely exist in the same physicality as our world?
So this is jumping back a little bit, and but several episodes ago, I don't even know how long ago, we talked about how if teleportation in Star Trek kills the person who's teleporting, and I think we mentioned Pokeballs converting Pokemon to data, and at one point we suggested maybe the Pokemon are living carbon-based life forms until you catch them with a Pokeball, and then basically you've killed them and turned them into a digital clone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my headcanon, and it upsets a few people, but
yeah, well, I feel like we solved it, right? It's it's the universal PowerPoint energy. And you know what? I actually like that theory a lot too, because it really solves a lot of horrible scientific problems in Pokemon. You could just be like, yeah, well, it's probably just the PowerPoints. It's just the midichlorians of Pokemon.
Right.
I know.
Why do they have all PowerPoints?
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokechlorian.
That's true. All right. Well, there you go. There's the answer. Magnets.
Magnets. Wait, how do those work?
One of the things I think is kind of interesting now that we've talked about it, though, is the fact that, there are a lot of Pokemon that are not organic in nature. There's just, alive rock folks. There's the Geodudes and the
right.
Roggenrollas, and they're just rocks. They aren't animals or plants
and
or anything. Klefki. There's a bag of garbage that's a Pokemon.
There's an
ice cream cone.
Bag of garbage.
Here's a question. Are there any non-sentient Pokemon?
Ooh.
I'm the wrong person to ask on that.
I mean, Snorlax is asleep 95% of the day. Does that count?
Yeah, that's a mood. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not conscious for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any that are robots?
Yes.
Definitely, right? Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm trying to think.
Like Electrode, right? Isn't that technically a little robot? Or who's the little magnet guy?
Magnemite, yeah.
Magneton.
Yeah, Magnemite, Magneton, and Magnezone.
Oh, there's a third one.
Yeah, it's a UFO.
What are their types?
Those three? Electric and Steel.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. What do you think is the most Pokemon-like real-life animal? In this very fantastical way of, producing its own weaponry and things to, and yeah.
My gut would go straight to the Bombardier Beetle, actually.
Bombardier Beetle.
That is pretty good.
A skunk comes to mind.
Oh, that's
Porcupines.
A good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Porcupines. A lot. There are fish that can shoot water jets.
Yeah, like an octopus. That's got to be one of the most Pokemon things ever. It's basically a Ditto at that point, right?
I thought you were going to say artillery.
Yeah.
It's both.
True. Ditto is. Yeah. One of the things I always liked is the Rafflesia flower that is just Vileplume. I think that's kind of a neat one. Although Rafflesia doesn't have superpowers, it's just a flower that smells bad. But still,
what is it called?
I think it's pronounced Rafflesia. It might be Rafflesia. I don't know.
I don't know if that's the corpse flower or not.
No, that's a different one.
Let me ask you a question, Jim, as a scientist. Speaking of flowers, how long? What do you think is the quickest amount of time a flower could grow from a seed or seedling to basically a full size flower?
Ooh, I don't know. I know that bamboo will grow a foot a day or more. I think.
Sure. Well, let me follow that up with another question. How does Venusaur do Vine Whip? Where does that come from?
Where is that?
It comes from the punch dimension.
They all come from the punch dimension.
Yeah. Is that a whip? Is that a vine that Venusaur kind of has wrapped up like an Indiana Jones style, or is this another
I was thinking a tape
example
measure.
Of? Yeah.
I always assumed it was a prehensile vine.
Yeah.
But it could just grow like the beanstalk.
I feel like it's more Spider-Man-y, where they're kind of like generating those vines in real time with the PowerPoints.
With the PowerPoints.
And then you have like the spider Pokemon that can do like string shot and stuff that is very Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Now, is that PowerPoints, or are they doing organic webbing?
Well, it uses up PowerPoints, so
okay.
Maybe like the regular normal spider things they do is just regular normal spider things, but then the cool superpowers of like string shot and poison sting, those are the ones that use up the PowerPoints.
Interesting.
That's fair.
Do you think that only Pokemon can use PowerPoints? And that's like why that's why we have Pokemon battling each other and not just like, Bob and Fred like shooting water out of their mouths and stuff.
Yeah, because like in Pokemon Legends Arceus, you can actually get beaten up by Pokemon, and there's nothing you can do. Yeah.
Oh.
I never played that one.
That's a really good game actually, because it is set in like the feudalistic time frame of the Pokemon world, and so like people are still pretty afraid of Pokemon, and you're like the brave guy that goes out and actually catches Pokemon and like trains them. You're like, everyone respects you for it. It's kind of cool. Yeah, they like, you just walk around and there's Pokemon out in the wild and they will come after you and like kill you. So it's a good game.
That's cool. Man, so much science involved in Pokemon. I feel like I'm just thinking of so many different questions that this has completely opened up. Like the Pandora's box is open now, and Pokemon, I'm not going to be able to play it again until it makes scientific sense. So I got bad news for myself.
Yeah.
Just pick your starter Pokemon, and then you just be like, wait, how does that work?
Yeah.
And then you can't advance in the game.
Yeah.
At least tackle makes sense.
You know what I think would be a really fun question, and maybe I'll pose this to the person who asked us this question, who submitted this. What Pokemon could actually exist in real life? Yeah.
I'm just flat out adding that to our list of questions right now.
Yeah, let's get some emails.
Questions at vaguelyscientific.com.
Or,
that is not our email address.
That's got to be.
I better go register that at the end of this show.
Does AOL exist?
Yeah, they do.
You can just like put over Dak saying that, just put in the actual email address. Just like,
but it'll just be my voice saying it.
It's just your voice saying it. It's the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, there's a lot we didn't tackle, and we would love listener feedback on this. Please contribute to this topic. It's huge. But in the meantime, we do have a second question, which I think I'll jump over to now. Question 2 this week comes to us from Dean. What would happen if the Earth became flat? I don't know how, but just say it does. Could life still exist on it? Could life perhaps come back millions of years later? You already covered in this question that if the world became flat, everyone would probably die.
Hey, and you can get that on a t-shirt. I just want to mention.
Let's first, how is the Earth becoming flat? I'm kind of picturing like a ball, like an orange that you are peeling up from the bottom, from the South Pole, and sort of stretching it into kind of a hockey puck shape. Like,
okay.
So like the idea being that the underside in the center is basically the exposed core of the Earth. And the top is just all of the surface area, so it's
you're opening the mantle.
Right. Basically. It's the actual model of, I think, like the actual flat world people, they have the South Pole as this giant perimeter that is essentially fencing it. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, how can we get there from where we are here?
I want to throw out, because this would not be the same as that explanation, but I was reading about how the Earth is sort of flattened from north to south pole. and expands toward the equator, and that's because of the rotation, right? So my first thought was to answer how could we flatten the Earth, basically like a pizza.
Yeah, spin it like a pizza dough.
Spin it like a pizza, and it'll expand in the middle until it's
yeah. That's actually what I was thinking about too.
Earth.
I want to say it's the dwarf planet Makemake. It might be Haumea. I have to check on this later, but one of those two dwarf planets is spinning so fast that it's actually football shaped. So.
Oh, that's cool.
So it can be done.
The Hey Arnold of planets.
Yeah. You shouldn't do it to Earth because, like you said, everyone will probably die. But it can be done.
All right, noted. Good. Noted. We won't do that.
Don't do it.
I think one of the key points in Dean's question is he says like magically the Earth turns flat. So we don't have to. I guess we don't have to worry too much about what happens to humanity and the world and the solar system during the transition. It's just like either it's something that's instantaneous or the actual transition to it becoming flat has somehow no ill effects. So once we're there though.
Yeah, could life exist on a flat Earth? I guess is a way to.
I think life probably could exist in some capacity, but I'm talking about like bacteria or, very small, like microorganism kind of things, things that have existed for much longer than animals have and in much harsher environments than animals have. I think those could probably keep on going since they already live. So,
yeah.
Oh, that depends on how much of our air we lose because we're going to lose a lot of it.
Oh, how does that affect the atmosphere?
That's a good point. Yeah, especially if we actually do have like an exposed core on the underside.
Ooh, yeah.
I imagine that would do some really gnarly things.
I think in that case, like if we do the orange peel thing, I think all the air is just going to settle back down onto the core, and the crust is just going to be like airless.
Interesting.
That would be bad.
I was looking at how gravity would work on that shape of an object because it would it would pull you toward the center of mass.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which would be somewhere toward the center of the disk, and if you were to go onto like the rim, you would be standing with your feet touching the rim, and basically like if you look at the traditional flat Earth model, you'd be standing sideways in that case.
Standing on the edge of a quarter.
You'd still be pulled in. Right.
Yeah.
So how would that affect the atmosphere? Like, would the atmosphere maybe congregate toward the center of the pizza as well?
I think that would probably be the case. When we talked about, this is way back, this is like in the first dozen episodes or so, I think, when we talked about square planets. And we had talked about how the water would still sort of form a sphere around the square planet because it would want to pull itself into a ball shape. And I imagine the atmosphere would do much the same kind of thing. It might want to pull itself towards the center of the pizza into sort of roughly a sphere. It depends on how much gravity this pizza or spinning blade of death on top of a sphere is going to be going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's assume that the flat Earth still has the same amount of mass as the current Earth. I think if you just everything's going to start squishing back in, right? I mean, it's just going to eventually become a ball again, but you're going to have things like all the gases, and then of course like all the water and maybe all the lava is going to pool in the middle first, giving ourselves a nice little like mini Saturn thing.
I think that's fair because say this happened magically in an instant and all life on Earth is wiped out. Like, I think you're right that eventually it would compress back into a spheroid and then maybe life could start from the beginning again and it would still be Earth in that sense.
Do you think you would be able to tell if your planet came from a disk?
Oh.
How would plate tectonics be affected?
Yeah, I bet you could probably tell from like the layering if you dug down far enough.
So in the actual like flat Earth society thing. They explain gravity away by saying that the Earth is constantly accelerating upwards, and thus keeping you, firmly. I'm pretty sure that's like one of the more leading theories, right?
Yeah,
Which like makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, obviously,
it's a giant elevator.
Yeah, because that means that obviously our sun and our moon and the entire other, the whole universe must be doing that too, I guess. But crazy science aside, could you maintain let's say like orbit around the sun if your planet was entirely flat, or would we kind of frisbee away?
I'm so glad you said that. So this has no basis in science whatsoever, but like I, for a moment at least, wanted to stray away from could life exist on this planet to suggest that if an object with the mass of the Earth could be a disk, like I want to explore how thin that disk possibly could be. And then I just pictured Gurren Lagann and having it careening through space, cutting planets in half. And that's
like a big buzzsaw.
I just wanted to bring it up.
like a big what's the disc that the Dragon Ball guy had?
Oh, Destructo disc.
Yeah,
Destructo
like a giant
disc.
Destructo disc. Man, lots of anime in this episode, guys.
Yeah.
Lots of anime. Lots of anime I actually know the references to, which is surprising.
One of the things that I was thinking of that I think would be interesting to see is the idea that if your Earth, or I guess whatever planet, let's just say Earth, because that's what we're talking about. If your Earth very slowly squashes down from the poles and just does like the pizza thing, the edges of your disk are going to start to go a lot faster because that's just how, physics works. So like right now, our Earth at the equator is traveling about 1,000 miles an hour. The closer you get to the poles, the slower the Earth is actually spinning for you. So like, if you're on the north or south pole, you're barely moving at all. But if you're on the equator, you're going at about 1,000 miles an hour. But as the diameter gets wider, you're going to be going a lot faster. And I wonder what that would do to like, I don't know that it would be enough to just start throwing things off the planet, but it would probably be bad news for like any weather that's there, or like, I'm sure that it's not going to go well for oceans or anything like that. It's probably going to get messy.
You'd kind of have like reduced perceived gravity on the edges, huh?
Yeah.
Like you'd be able to jump pretty high and stuff. Like what if, like people who are standing on the edge of the quarter, like they're, horizontal. Are they just way taller than everyone else because they get stretched out?
I mean, yeah, because gravity would be weaker if you're that far out, just like it is if you're on top of a mountain, right? So
yeah. The in The Expanse, they actually talk about people who were born and raised on other planets, how they are much taller and lankier, and generally cannot go to Earth because their bodies are not able to cope with the higher gravity, which I think is kind of interesting.
Is that why like gray aliens are always depicted as like really tall?
I don't know.
Or little green men. What are little? Those are from Mars.
They're little and they're green.
Is gravity heavier or lighter on Mars?
On Mars, it's less.
It's less? Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, yeah, that theory is shot. So I guess, how different do you think the gravity would be at the center of the? Because I like what you're proposing. I actually really like this pizza spinning thing. It's way more interesting.
I think the orange peel thing is very funny, though. I love the visual of that.
It's good, but that was like sort of my attempt of taking our current real Earth and turning it into what flat earthers think exists. And there's already a lot of like really hokey, pseudoscience around that. So that's actually not as interesting as if you just took the Earth and like put it in a giant, pneumatic press that just squished it down or something,
Well, the difference there is that you don't actually have, like with the orange opening thing, you have a top and a bottom. Whereas with the pizza thing, you still technically don't have a top and a bottom, but you do have a rim.
Right.
Which is, the flat Earth model does not take into account, it doesn't take gravity into account at all. They don't believe gravity is a thing. It's still even different because if you look at the flat Earth model, you have the ice wall around the circumference, which would be the South Pole, and then you have the southern hemisphere is all expanded.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at like a traditional unfolding of a globe and how it can't be made into a flat rectangle, it has to be made into like pieces in order to flatten it or something, like that's more like what we're talking about if you unpeeled an orange. So it wouldn't be like round.
I guess that's true. I was almost thinking, it was sort of like an orange with stretchy skin. You could just kind of
an orange with stretchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah.
So, Jim, what was the football planet again you were talking about?
I think let me Google it. I want to make sure I'm right about which one it is.
Because I wonder how fast that is spinning.
Oh, it's Haumea. Okay.
I wonder how fast that spins in comparison to something like the Earth. Because, I'm guessing that our current physics model will not let us actually spin the Earth fast enough to turn it into a disk without it, exploding. But
right.
Like how close could we get though?
Let's see. What is the rotational period here? 3.9 hours. So, but I mean, Haumea is also a lot smaller than the Earth. It is, what is the diameter of this block? Around 2,100 kilometers-ish. Well, that's on the long side. So that would be, what, you divide that by points, or multiply that by 0.6. So, I don't know, like about 1,000 miles across. It's a wee lad.
And what are we, like 10,000 miles across?
We're 8,000, so we're way better.
Okay, gotcha. Oh yeah, good. So all right, here's a question: how flat could we make the Earth before we all die? And right now I'm thinking, let's use all the tools that we have at our disposal, including like changing the Earth's rotational speed. Right now, I just looked it up. Earth spins at like around 1,000 miles an hour. What if we just cranked that up by a factor of 100? Like, are we all going to die if that happens, like immediately? Or can we maybe start turning the knob up a little bit?
I think it would be, I think it'd be best to slowly increase that speed. Mostly because if we start spinning the Earth faster, the atmosphere isn't necessarily going to be spinning faster. Right. So we're going to be traveling through air that is going 100 times slower than we are.
It's funny that you asked that question because that's legitimately what I was looking into. So what I've been finding, how fast could the Earth spin without us dying? And it's hard to give a definitive answer because what I've been finding here is weather would be affected so drastically, earthquakes and volcanic activity would be affected so drastically. So it's sort of a crapshoot about what would kill us all first.
So how much wider is the Earth than tall right now? Because you said it's a little bit wider, right? Because of the rotation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of smushed a little bit.
I'm going to Google it because I want to know the answer to this now.
I feel like if we, added maybe 10 to 20 miles per hour of spin, a year, I think we could all survive that.
It looks like it's about 20 miles difference.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's like 20 miles wider than it is taller.
So we got the equatorial diameter of the Earth is about 7918 miles, and the polar diameter is about 7,900 miles.
Interesting. Okay.
One of the things that I think would work in our favor here is that Earth used to spin a lot faster. When it first formed, our days were only like 6 to 8 hours long. So we know that it can handle the punishment.
The Earth can.
Was there life on Earth at that point, or?
Yeah, life arose very quickly. So I mean, it was like bacteria for the very longest time, but I mean, it was alive. So
what you're telling me, Jim, is that we actually used to have a flat Earth, and then we slowed down, and it became a sphere.
I don't think that's the thing I'm saying. I think we were just more squashed than we are, but I'm still pretty sure we were roughly spherical.
You heard it here first. Jim claims Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Boy, I sure
it's not
don't.
anymore, but
No, Jim did not say that.
I mean, if you hit anything with enough asteroids, eventually it's going to be flat-ish.
You can pulverize it into flatness, sure.
Yeah, like Saturn's rings. Hey, if we just pulverize Earth into powder, we could make a disk out of it, and that would be similar.
When I was picturing the pizza Earth with all of the water culminating in the middle, I was picturing a model of Saturn with the water being the planet and the rest of the Earth being the ring.
I think that would be similar to how it would end up. I don't think we have enough water to make like a big bulge, but I do now like the idea of the Earth flattening out to the point where it just starts to fly apart and becomes basically powder and turns into Saturn's rings.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen, one of those like videos where they spin a CD at like, 50,000 RPM or something until it shatters?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, how can we get the Earth up to speed?
I didn't know that was a thing. That's interesting.
I think we just attach a bunch of rocket engines to the equator and really spin it up.
How much energy would that take? And does the Earth have that much energy? Or do we need to borrow some from Squirtle?
Probably Squirtle.
We need more PowerPoints.
I bet you. Like if we got a bunch of the real powerful legendary ones, like if you got a bunch of Kyogres or something and just strung them around the equator, because those are the Pokemon that can alter like land masses and stuff. You could probably do it.
So how can we use Pokemon to turn the Earth flat? And second question, why was that not the original question?
We don't know that. We don't know that Pokemon World is not flat. Have we seen it from
Is
space?
That true? No, is that true? I don't think that's
wait.
true.
Actually,
I think we have seen
might
it
not
from
be true.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we had to have. Is it Earth though?
No, it's not.
Oh. Maybe Digimon World is flat.
They're definitely data.
Digimon World is.
We can go there. Cool. So wait, where did we land on this? I actually don't even remember the question, Dean. I'm sorry.
Just.
I think the actual answer is everyone would die, and
everyone would die. The hardest part about this whole question is it all hinges on. Assume the Earth could be flattened. It can't, so I don't know. Like we can't go further than that.
I do think that something would survive. I think little bacterias would survive, especially the ones that are closest to the poles where there's not going to be that much speed difference. But again, it depends on how much air we lose.
Yeah, man. I wonder what the reformation of the sphere would be like. Would it just kind of revert back to a sphere, or would it just, or would it kind of be like, if you can mix two colors of Play-Doh, but you can't unmix them, You
can't unmix them. Maybe you just fold it over like a calzone.
Dude, why don't we have calzone Earth? Okay.
Why don't we have calzone Earth?
That's the question I want to know.
Is that hollow Earth? I don't know.
No, I think it's the Earth that was in the Jules Verne book, Journey to the Center of the Earth. I think that's calzone Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he ran into like dinosaurs down there.
To the center. That's true. They just wanted to get to the cheesy filling.
Yeah. I read that book, and boy, it just ends in the middle of like, oh, this thing's happening. Also, now we're being blasted back to the surface. He just ran out of interest, I think, is what happened.
I seem to remember that being,
Yeah. But that's Calzone Earth, I think. That would be my leading theory.
Well, I like Calzone Earth. I'm happy leaving it there.
Yeah, Calzone Earth is delicious.
I'm into it. Yeah.
I do want to mention before we wrap up, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but Saturn's rings actually technically have an atmosphere. It's like extremely tenuous, but it's like a noticeable increase in the amount of oxygen that there is in the region of the ring. So like they have enough gravity to hold on to like a few extra atoms of oxygen. But I mean, as far as we know, nothing's alive in the rings. So, it's cold out there.
Cold out there. Stay warm. Well, listeners, let us know this week, what's your best recipe for Calzone Earth? Because we're making it. Jim, do we have any listener mail this week?
We do. And as always, if you want to send us listener mail, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com. You can comment on our blog. You can like us on Facebook. You can tweet @VaguelySci. And this email comes to us from Kim and is in regards to episode 32, Breaking Your Bones, a primer. And Kim wrote, Scrooge being able to jump into his money is a superpower. That was established very early in the comics, like back in the 1950s. He outsmarts the Beagle Gang by making them think that they could do it, and they all knock themselves unconscious trying.
What?
That's cool.
That's canon? But that's apparently from 1950s, it says.
I didn't even realize that not DuckTales, I guess, but like... Scrooge as a character existed that long. Maybe it was still DuckTales. I don't know. That's cool.
Wow.
I don't think it was DuckTales yet, but I think it was just Scrooge McDuck.
That's cool.
I think there was wasn't there a Family Guy sketch about like Peter or Scrooge like jumping into like a big giant, thing of golden coins, and he just breaks his neck like immediately. Like
I think so.
It's just like hitting concrete.
Yeah.
It turns out that Family Guy parody was just something they actually did in the source material. Well, they knocked themselves unconscious.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's weird.
I should watch, I've sort of been here and there. My son is real into the modern DuckTales with David Tennant, but I haven't been watching it that closely. And now I'm like, does that happen in the show? Is it a thing that I would be able to see? And oh man, now I wish I'd been paying more attention.
I imagine we would have heard about it.
True. Well, that's great. I love it. Thank you very much for that email. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
And make sure to tell your friends to listen to the whole episode so they hear our actual email address.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli. And don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. Since we're starting our 6th year, we're unveiling a new design by Derek. It is the Welcome to My Brain Forest shirt, or mug, or whatever you want.
I hate it so much.
Whatever you want to put it on. It's a brain forest.
It's very good for Halloween, I will say.
Yeah, because it's like a brain. So, but it's also good for people who have brains.
Yeah. So the minority of us out there who have brains. Sorry, the minority of you. I didn't mean to include myself.
Yeah.
So, thank you to Dak for being our guest this week.
Wow, I think Scrooge McDuck might be a Pokemon, you guys.
Oh.
Thanks for having me. These are some great questions. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, but yeah, everything's
or play
connected.
Pokemon ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, for Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I'm Dak.
Yay! And tonight we're gonna party like it's 1999.
Cool.
Woohoo! A woo!
Toodaloo, everyone.
It's vaguely scientific. There, now you can't unhear it either.
Huh. Too bad we can't pay for the licensing for that.
Well, I can do that little riff there.
You're gonna have to bleep the whole thing.
Have to bleep the whole thing. Yeah, I've wanted to just play that in the background before, but all right, here we go. I don't know why these are all the top songs of 1998 for my intro this week.
Wow, I didn't realize Closing Time was that old.
Yeah. So